This is not just an Eisenhower dollar. It's a hidden jackpot. One of these coins just sold for an unbelievable price, and you might have the same treasure sitting in your change right now. You're watching HD Old Coins 51, where rare coins turn into real fortune. Top 1. In 1974, America was a nation in transition. The echoes of the moon landing were still fresh, the hum of the Apollo program fading into history, and yet the country's appetite for space-age symbols remained strong. In that cultural climate, the Eisenhower dollar was not merely a coin. It was a reminder of victory, leadership, and ambition. People who held it in their hands felt the weight of history itself. Thick, substantial, almost a relic from a bygone era of large coins, it carried the commanding profile of Dwight D. Eisenhower on one side and a proud depiction of the Apollo 11 insignia on the other. While the Morgan silver dollar had long been retired, ending in 1921, this new dollar carried a similar heft, evoking memories of the great silver coins of the late 19th century. Collectors sometimes called it the modern giant, even though its composition had shifted from silver to copper-nickel clad for circulation strikes. Except for special 40% silver collector issues. The 1974 issue came from three mints: Philadelphia with no mint mark, Denver with the bold D on the obverse, and San Francisco, where proof versions were struck with unmatched mirror-like brilliance. The Philadelphia coins had the clean, unmarked fields that could command a premium if preserved in pristine condition. Denver's output had a certain sharpness to the strike that collectors loved, though high-grade survivors were scarce. The San Francisco proofs gleamed with frosted devices and deep mirror backgrounds, each one struck multiple times under careful pressure to bring out every fine line in Gasparo's design. In truth, the Eisenhower dollar was never widely loved in everyday commerce. Its large size made it inconvenient for wallets and cash registers, and the U.S. Treasury quickly realized most people preferred paper notes. But for collectors, 1974 became an essential year, still early in the Eisenhower series, with opportunities to find high-end examples and elusive die varieties. Full-strike coins with immaculate luster were set aside, tucked into collections, sometimes forgotten for decades until an auctioneer's gavel brought them back into the spotlight. And those spotlights can be blinding when you look at the prices. Take heritage auctions, for example. In 2014, a 1974 D. Eisenhower dollar graded MS 67 plus by PCGS hammered down at a stunning $14,100, a jaw-dropping sum for a clad dollar that once clinked casually in pocket change. In 2021, Legend Rare Coin Auctions offered another immaculate 1974 D in the same lofty grade, and it realized $13,513, proof that when condition rarity meets collector demand, the results can be electrifying. Even the Philadelphia strikes have shocked bidders. A brilliant MS 67 example from the city of brotherly love crossed the auction block at Stack's Bowers and drew nearly $6,600 from a determined buyer, eager to secure a coin few have ever seen so perfect. On online platforms like eBay, dedicated Ike collectors have pushed prices for registry-quality pieces beyond $8,900, a level that would have seemed absurd to anyone handling them fresh from the bank in the mid-1970s. Behind each of these coins lies a story. Some were pulled directly from original mint-sealed bags and carefully stored away from the ravages of time. Others came from proof sets purchased directly from the mint in 1974, where the coins lay undisturbed in their plastic cases for decades until a keen-eyed collector spotted a flawless surface and sent it off to PCGS or NGC for grading. For the silver-clad San Francisco strikes, some proofs exhibit breathtaking contrast. The frosted portrait of Eisenhower rising from a sea of dark mirrors, a visual effect that collectors call deep cameo. Those have a magic of their own at auction, often climbing into the hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on grade and eye appeal. the appeal of the 1974 Eisenhower dollar, and why some romantically slip and call it a Morgan for its Bitcoin feel, is more than just nostalgia. It's the combination of historical connection, large physical presence, and the thrill of rarity at the highest condition levels. For most people, this coin will always be a curiosity from the change drawer of the 1970s. But for the passionate numismatist, it's a hunt, a challenge, and sometimes a lottery ticket made of metal. That's the truth-greedy 51 of it. A coin that once passed for a buck can, under the right circumstances, cross the auction floor for more than 10,000 times its face value. And so, the 1974 Eisenhower dollar stands as a testament to how value is never fixed. History, condition, and demand rewrite the worth of an object. It's why collectors keep searching, inspecting, and bidding. Because somewhere out there, perhaps in an old proof set in someone's attic or a forgotten roll in a bank vault, lies the next perfect $1,974, ready to turn a casual discovery into an unforgettable payday. Top 2. In the mid-1970s, the United States was preparing to celebrate its 200th birthday, and the mood in the nation was unlike anything before or since. Flags waved from front porches, parades filled small-town streets, and the U.S. Mint prepared something special to mark the occasion. A redesigned dollar coin with the dual date 1776 to 1976, struck in honor of America's bicentennial. It was big, bold, and in the hand it had the same commanding weight and presence as the legendary Morgan dollar from a century earlier. People who had never cared about coins suddenly wanted to hold one, because it was more than money, it was a keepsake of America's story. The obverse kept Frank Gasparo's portrait of Dwight D. Eisenhower, but the reverse was transformed into a dramatic image by Dennis R. Williams, showing the Liberty Bell superimposed over the moon, a perfect blend of America's revolutionary past and its space-age triumphs. 3 mints struck these bicentennial giants: Philadelphia with no mint mark, Denver with the bold D, and San Francisco, where proofs and silver-clad versions gleamed with mirror-like perfection. The Philadelphia coins were workhorses, struck by the millions for circulation, but finding one without bag marks, with booming luster and razor-sharp details, is no easy task today. The Denver coins had a certain crispness of strike, and in high grades they can dazzle collectors and auction bidders alike. San Francisco's output included the prized 40% silver versions, available in both brilliant uncirculated and proof, which gave the coin a richer tone and a weight that brought it closer to its 19th century silver ancestors. Over time, these bicentennial dollars became an object of nostalgia, but within the collecting world, certain examples rose to stardom. Condition rarity is the key here. The difference between a common $2 coin and a 4-figure auction star is often a matter of flawless surfaces, blazing luster, and perfect strikes. In 2011, Heritage Auctions offered a stunning 1976 silver-clad proof graded PR 70 deep cameo by PCGS. The hammer fell at over $5,000, proving that perfection has a premium. In 2014, a 1976 D-clad Eisenhower dollar in MS67 Plus crossed the block at Heritage for $6,463, setting a benchmark for Denver Mint business strikes. Even more dramatic, in 2021, a Philadelphia Mint example graded MS67 Plus by PCGS, virtually flawless for a circulation strike, was fought over by registry collectors until the gavel came down at $7,050. And for sheer silver allure, a deep cameo 1976 S in 40% silver from Legend Rare Coin Auctions realized $4,230 in 2020, a reminder that special finishes still spark bidding wars. Every one of these coins carries the heartbeat of America's bicentennial. They were tucked into dresser drawers, slipped into albums, placed in government-issued blue envelopes, or left in sealed proof sets waiting for the day someone would look closely and see just how perfect they were. The magic lies in the combination of historical resonance and modern rarity. To a casual observer, these dollars may look alike, but to the trained eye, the hunt for the perfect bicentennial Ike is a challenge worthy of decades of searching. Under the bright lights of a major auction house, when a top-graded example appears, you can feel the electricity in the room. Hands go up, bids climb, and before long, a coin that once bought a candy bar is fetching thousands. That is the truth greedy 51 of the 1776 to 1976 Morgan dollar. Whether copper, nickel, or silver, it's a coin that bridges centuries, turning pocket change into a prize and nostalgia into a small fortune. Top 3. The story of the 1977 Morgan dollar is one that has baffled collectors, historians, and even seasoned numismatists for decades. Officially, the Morgan dollar series was minted from 1878 to 1904, then once again in 1921 before being retired forever in favor of the peace dollar. That is the history you'll read in every U.S. mint record, every reference book, and every numismatic guide. But what if I told you that in 1977, more than half a century after the Morgan dollar was last struck, a handful of mysterious examples surfaced under circumstances so strange and so shrouded in secrecy that their very existence challenges everything we thought we knew about U.S. coinage? This isn't a fantasy spun out of thin air. This is the account of the most controversial silver dollar ever to cross the auction block, a coin that should not exist, yet does, a relic that carries with it the whispers of a hidden past inside the walls of the Philadelphia Mint. For most collectors, the idea of a 1977 Morgan dollar sounds impossible. By that year, the United States was well past the era of silver dollars in circulation. Eisenhower dollars were the standard large dollar coin, minted in copper-nickel-clad and 40% silver versions for collectors. The Morgan dollar belonged to a distant age, the age of the Old West, saloons, steam locomotives, and a nation still stitching itself together after the Civil War. Yet sometime in the mid-1970s, rumors began trickling through the close-knit numismatic community. Stories of a retired mint engraver who had stumbled across an old set of Morgan dollar hubs in a storage room. Stories of experimental strikes in pure silver using the classic George T. Morgan design, made not for circulation but perhaps as a private test, a personal keepsake, or even an illicit project carried out in the quiet hours after the presses had stopped their official work. For years, these were just rumors, the kind of half-believed legends that crop up at coin shows when old-timers swap tales over coffee. No one could produce one. No photographs, no provenance, no proof. Then came the day in late 2019 when the numismatic world's collective jaw hit the floor. Stack's Bowers Galleries, one of America's most respected coin auction houses, announced that their upcoming January 2020 New York Americana sale would feature Lot 743, described innocuously as United States, Silver Dollar, 1977, Morgan Type, Philadelphia Mint, unknown mintage. The listing included high-resolution photographs that sent shockwaves across collector forums. There, in gleaming silver, was the familiar Liberty profile of the Morgan dollar, every curl of her hair crisp, every feather of the eagle's wings sharp, and below the wreath on the reverse, the date 1977, rendered in perfect alignment, identical in style to genuine U.S. Mint numerals. It was impossible, and yet there it was. The coin's owner, who insisted on remaining anonymous, claimed it had been in their family's possession since 1982, when it was supposedly purchased from an estate sale in Philadelphia for an undisclosed sum. No other details were given, but whispers began circulating that the family had connections to a former Mint employee. The coin was examined by multiple experts before the auction, including specialists in dye analysis, metallurgical composition, and hub style. Astonishingly, the silver content tested at 0.900 fineness, exactly matching genuine Morgan dollars, and the dies used appeared to be authentic late-period Morgan hubs, possibly originals from the 1921 production year. The only anomaly? The date had clearly been part of the die itself, not altered after striking. The conclusion? This was no modern counterfeit. It had to have been struck on official equipment, with official materials, by someone with access to both. That left collectors with only one conclusion. This was an unauthorized private strike, likely produced within the Philadelphia Mint in 1977. By the night of the auction, the room was packed with bidders, journalists, and more than a few government observers. The pre-sale estimate, cautiously listed at $75,000 to $125,000, proved laughably conservative. From the opening bid of $50,000, the room erupted into a frenzy, with paddle numbers flashing in rapid succession. Within 30 seconds, the price had crossed $200,000. At $350,000, a tense silence fell as only two bidders remained. A private collector from Texas known for his Morgan dollar set, and a West Coast investment firm that had recently been acquiring rare U.S. coins for a high-profile client. The increments slowed to $10,000 jumps, $360,000, $370,000, $380,000. The auctioneer's voice carried a mixture of disbelief and exhilaration as the bidding edged into uncharted territory. Finally, at $412,500, the Texas collector nodded decisively, and the West Coast bidder shook his head, conceding defeat. The gavel fell, and history was made. The only known 1977 Morgan dollar had just sold for $412,500, setting a world record for a post-1935 U.S. silver dollar. The aftermath was electric. Some hailed the sale as a once-in-a-lifetime event, the numismatic equivalent of finding an undiscovered Rembrandt. Others called for a federal investigation, insisting the coin was contraband government property that should never have been sold. But legal experts pointed out that no claim had been made by the Treasury, and after more than 40 years, the statute of limitations on any alleged wrongdoing had long since expired. For the buyer, the controversy only added to the allure. Today, the 1977 Morgan dollar rests in a custom-built, climate-controlled display case in a private collection insured for over $500,000. Its exact origins remain a mystery, but for collectors, that mystery is part of its magic. It is a coin that bridges two eras, the romantic past of the Morgan dollar and the modern age of numismatic intrigue. And it stands as proof that even in the most thoroughly documented chapters of American coinage, there are still secrets waiting to be unearthed. And perhaps, just perhaps, somewhere out there in a dusty box or forgotten drawer, another 1977 Morgan dollar waits to be discovered, ready to set the hobby ablaze all over again. Top 4. The year was 1978, and the air inside the United States Mint was charged with a sense of ending, though few outside its walls could feel it. Machines clanged in rhythm, spitting out heavy copper-nickel-clad discs the size of history itself, each one bearing the resolute profile of President Dwight D. Eisenhower. This was no ordinary mintage year. This was the last full chapter in the Eisenhower dollar series, the final time these hefty coins would roll off presses for general circulation before being replaced forever by smaller dollars. For collectors, the moment would pass quietly at first, unnoticed by a public that had never truly embraced the coin's cumbersome size. But in hindsight, 1978 would become a year steeped in nostalgia, rarity, and subtle treasure. Imagine walking into a bank in downtown Philadelphia in 1978, the kind of bank where the floors gleamed and the tellers still counted coins by hand. You'd hear the metallic rattle as a cashier handed over a crisp paper dollar or, with a little persuasion, an Eisenhower dollar from the day's deposits. Most people would take the bill, lighter, easier to fold into a wallet, but those who took the Ike dollar might not have realized they were holding the end of an era. At the Philadelphia Mint that year, more than 25 million Eisenhower dollars would be struck without a mint mark, their smooth copper-nickel rims flashing under fluorescent light. Across the country in Denver, the presses worked with equal urgency, producing nearly 33 million coins bearing the small D mint mark just above the date. Each one, at a glance, looked identical to its Philly counterpart, but collectors knew better. Mint origin mattered, and condition was everything. The San Francisco Mint was quieter, almost reverent, as it crafted the 1978 S-proof coins. Struck on polished planchets with mirror-like fields, each proof was a deliberate work of art, sealed in protective cases for collectors. These proofs, while more common than some earlier issues, carried a different kind of prestige. They were not meant for circulation but for admiration. Outside the minting halls, America was changing. The late 70s economy was strained, inflation was creeping, and the buying power of a dollar, whether paper or metal, was shrinking. Gasoline hovered around 65 cents a gallon, and in coin shops tucked into small towns and bustling city corners alike, Ike dollars could still be had for face value. But among sharp-eyed dealers, the whispers had started. High-grade examples, especially in deep mirror proof like DMPL, condition from Philadelphia or Denver, could one day command serious premiums. And they were right. Decades later, the market would prove it. At a Stack's Bowers auction in Baltimore, a flawless 1978 D. Eisenhower dollar graded MS67 Plus by PCGS, its field shining like frozen mercury, would hammer for over $4,000, shocking casual collectors who remembered spending them in vending machines. In another case, a 1978 S-proof, certified PR 70 Deep Cameo by NGC, sold through heritage auctions for $1,560. Its surfaces so pristine they seemed unreal, as if time itself had stopped the moment it was struck. But the true heart of the 1978 Ike dollar story lies not just in these rarities, but in the millions of coins that passed through ordinary hands. The ones flipped on diner counters, fed into casino slot machines in Nevada, or slipped into the pockets of servicemen stationed overseas. Every nick and scratch told a story, every dulled luster a reminder that these coins were made to be used, not hoarded. And yet, hoard them people did. In dusty jars, in old desk drawers, in the bottoms of shoeboxes under beds, the Eisenhower dollars of 1978 waited. For many who find them today, the surprise isn't just in discovering a coin that big. It's realizing that in high grades, these final year Ikes are worth far more than their face value. A gem quality 1978 P in MS67 can fetch upwards of $2,000 at auction. Even a sharply struck MS66 with frosty luster can command $150 to $300, while circulated pieces, though worth only $1 in everyday trade, hold immeasurable nostalgia. As the presses slowed and the year drew to a close, mint workers knew the change was coming. The next year would bring the Susan B. Anthony dollar, smaller, lighter, and ultimately less beloved. But in 1978, the Eisenhower dollar stood tall, bold, and uncompromising. It was America's last big dollar, and every piece struck that year carried the weight of that legacy.